What taxpayer should be concerned about what you're talking about?
It was sold and passed as something we're going to go after the billionaire tax cheats. Well, there's only about 900 billionaires in this country. You don't need 45,000 agents to go after those 800 billionaires. It really is who they always target and where the money is, where they have the most success on audits. And that is really small business owners, 200,000 to 400,000. That is the prime target.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Our Watch. We have with us here in the studio today an expert in an area that really is going to concern everybody that's watching right now. He's got 23 years experience in something that's very important to us. 23 years experience as a tax attorney, I would say. He's going to talk more about what he does, but 23 years experience, 6 of those years were working with the IRS. So please say a great welcome to Pietro Canestrelli. Pietro, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on, Tim.
Yeah, of course. Excited to have you on. You're coming to us as a professional. Talk to us a little bit about your experience, what you do, because we know that the IRS is hiring 87,000 new employees, and we got to know what's going on with that. So how do you know the insight into what's going on?
Well, I started my attorney career with the IRS. I was hired right out of law school in 1999. And I worked in the IRS Chief Counsel's office in Washington, D.C. It's right on Constitution Avenue. It has the price of civilization carved on the front of it. And I was there for 6 years. So we were there for 9/11, the anthrax attack, the sniper attack, very interesting historical time. And the only problem was I really didn't enjoy working for the government, but I spent 6 years there, and I don't think I accomplished much. I don't think many of my colleagues accomplished much in the IRS. It's just the nature of the beast working for the government.
What was it like? What was it like working for the IRS?
My problem with it was there is no motivation to accomplish anything. There's a lot of motivation not to do anything wrong, but there's not a lot of motivation to actually serve the taxpayers. Meaning, I was in a division that did written opinions. Taxpayers would come to us and say, this is a particular situation. We think that it should be taxed this way. Do you agree? And they're called private letter rulings. Did hundreds and hundreds of them. And in my view, a private letter ruling should be accomplished in 2 to 3 months. However, it usually the average amount of time is more like 8 months, a year. Sometimes they sit around for years just because there's so many layers of management and supervision that have to sign up. And they have no incentive to look at, to do this. Their salary is not based. They're going to get paid the same no matter what happens. So they have an attitude that they really do not care about any type of getting things done timely. To me, as a new attorney, it was maddening. And as now that I run my own business and I have my own taxpayers' clients, that is just not the way it should be done. So it was very depressing to work on something and get my part of the case done within, weeks, and then have to have it sit with the supervisor or even higher up for months and months and months. And it's just a frustrating process. I like to tell this story that kind of really exemplifies what working for the government is. I work for a division called Pass-Throughs and Special Industries. The head of Pass-Throughs and Special Industries had a secretary who retired. So they had to get a replacement. And of course, they picked the one with seniority. And her name was Miss Hattie. And Miss Hattie was the sweetest, nicest lady you ever could imagine. But she had no intention of doing this job, which basically means answering maybe 10 phone calls a day and writing things down in a calendar. She didn't want to do it. She wanted to sit there and read her novels all day. And that was perfectly fine. They actually had to get other secretaries from other branches to come and do that job, sit next to her and do that job while she sat there and read her novels. And the thing that was strange and discouraging to me is there was no questioning of this. Of course, Miss Hattie is going to get this job. Of course, she isn't going to do the job. And of course, nothing is going to be said about it. That is government at work, and that's the story I like to tell.
Government not at work.
Well, they're working for a paycheck.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right.
And benefits. The pay and benefits are excellent.
Yeah.
That's why it was difficult to leave, but a lot of that going on within the government.
So I'm sure most of my audience, they've dealt with the IRS in one way or another. It can be maddening.
Yes.
And we look at this hiring of 87,000 new employees, and I've talked to people in the tax industry, people who are CPAs and stuff like. They say, hey, listen, they need more employees. They're backed up. Look at the 2-hour waits online. It's a frustrating situation.
Right.
They definitely need more employees.
Right.
Now, the question is, do they need 87,000 of them?
Right.
And are these 87,000, how are they going to be allocated?
Right.
So can you speak to that?
The allocation is what the problem is. And I don't know if they need 87,000. They do need help in customer service, cutting down wait times on telephone calls, all that sort of thing that just grinds everything to the halt. Less than 5% is allocated to that. The vast majority of this $85 billion is going to be allocated to what is called enforcement. And that comes really in two varieties. One is more audits, and the other is more collection activity. That is what more than the majority of the money is going to.
So you say the 85 billion, you're talking about a result of what? Where's that 85 billion coming from?
$85 billion has been allocated to hire these 87,000 agents. The majority, $45 billion, is going to go directly to enforcement.
Okay.
That means you probably are going to have 45,000, 50,000 more agents in enforcement. And if they allocate it evenly between collections and audits, you're talking about maybe 20,000, 25,000 more auditors.
How many auditors are there right now before this?
There's about 8,000 auditors right now.
Okay.
To change that,
so 4 times the amount of auditors.
It's
3 times the amount.
4 times the amount of auditors. And
now, who are they going to target?
It was
the billionaires in our country
it was
need
sold,
to be concerned.
right.
Like, what taxpayer should be concerned about what you're talking about?
It was sold and passed as something we're going to go after the billionaire tax cheats. Well, there's only about 900 billionaires in this country. You don't need 45,000 agents to go after those 800 billionaires. It really is who they always target and where the money is, where they have the most success on audits. And that is really small business owners, 200,000 to 400,000. That is the prime target. The IRS has a division called small business and self-employed. Okay, those are the professionals, the small businesses that make up the backbone of the economy. That division is, as far as personnel is concerned, is bigger than all the other divisions. They have a large business division. They have an international division. But small business and self-employed is bigger than all of them put together. That means that that's who they're going to target. So a rough calculation that I've been looking at, you could have people, small business owners, have an audit rate that is now about 2% per year, could be, 8 to 10% per year in the coming years. And another thing that I think people are not aware of, because the media is telling them the opposite. They're going to be able to gear up and have more auditors fairly quickly because they hire internally. For an audit job, to be a revenue agent is a higher paying job than a lot of the jobs within the IRS. So there's a lot of people internally applying for these jobs.
And how quickly, like once they apply, how quickly can they become an auditor?
I think they could be an auditor basically within 2 months of training.
Wow. I've
actually last Friday, I talked to an auditor, a revenue agent, who had to put my case on hold because he had to go train a bunch of other auditors. So it's happening right now. So we could get a double audit rate and another double in the next 2 or 3 years very easily. Now, the only thing that might save us is, again, it's government. So who knows how efficient they're going to be. But they are saying, the people that proposed this legislation and how they got it through, we're going to invest $85 billion in the IRS, and we're going to get $204 billion in additional revenue. That's probably not going to happen because every time they've said some similar things in the past, it's not happened. During the Obama administration, they passed laws to look at foreign bank accounts, meaning U.S. taxpayers that own bank accounts overseas. They thought they were going to get $11 billion from this initiative. They really got about a third of that. Same in California when they sold the marijuana sales. They sold it partially on, hey, we're going to make all this money in taxes. Well, they're making about a third of what they anticipated they're going to make. So whenever they sell things that says we're going to make a ton of more taxes, it's usually wrong by at least 50 to 1/3 that they're actually going to collect, and that's because people change their behaviors. If there's more audits, that means people are going to go to tax court more, and there's no allocation for more tax court, and tax court is clogged up. IRS appeals is clogged up. It would have been nice if they would have allocated the same type of resources as these, because ultimately in this country, taxpayers still have a lot of rights, and you are allowed to fight an IRS audit, and you're allowed to go to the next stage and go into the U.S. Tax court, and in theory, you could bring your case to the United States Supreme Court. Unfortunately, today, about 2/3 of audits are not even responded to. Either the taxpayers are too scared, or they don't know what to do. They get deer in the headlights. They freeze, and then it goes into assessment, and they start collecting. The IRS starts collecting, taking money out of your bank account, garnishing your wages. So it's important that taxpayers know that they have a lot of rights, but they have to exercise it.
Right.
And that's kind of where we come in. We help taxpayers exercise their rights as taxpayers to fight the IRS. Because guess what? The IRS isn't always right. I would say half the time they're wrong.
Yeah.
Completely wrong. But you have to fight it. It's up to the taxpayer.
Right. So you've given us a lot of information. We're almost out of time right now, but we want to have you back on and talk more, because there's a whole lot more to unpack with this. How can people, though, in the meantime, there may be people that are struggling right now. They have been audited. How can they connect with somebody like you?
If you have any tax issue, or you know of anyone who has any tax issues, whether it's IRS, California Franchise Tax Board, sales tax, employment tax, contact us. You could give us a call at 951-319-7674. You could visit our website at ietaxattorney.com. We give free consultations to evaluate your case, see if we could help you, and it's all free, the initial consultation. So call us today.
All right, and you also have a radio program.
Oh, yes. We have a radio program on KATY. It's called Tax Talk, and it's on Saturday mornings at 7:30 a.m. A little early for most people, but it's worth listening to.
All right. Well, Pietro Canestrelli, thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to having you back on.
Thank you for having me, Pastor Tim.
And if you have any questions about what we had today, we want to talk more about this. We're going to bring him back on the program, and shoot your questions to us, info@ourwatch.com. We'd love to help answer your questions. That's all the time we have for today, so God bless you. We'll see you next time right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.